Your computer feels fast one moment, sluggish the next, and somehow the blame always lands on either not enough RAM or low storage. But those two terms get thrown around so often that their real meanings start to blur together. RAM and storage both hold data, both affect performance, and both are measured in gigabytes, which makes them sound interchangeable when they're not. So what actually separates them? And why does your device need both to function properly? That's the question we're unpacking today as we explore what RAM really does, what storage is responsible for, and why confusing the two can lead to the wrong upgrades and expectations. Right here, on History of Simple Things. RAM, or Random Access Memory, is your computer's short-term working space. It's where data lives while your device is actively using it. When you open a browser tab, launch an app, or start editing a photo, the information needed for those tasks is loaded into RAM, so the processor can access it almost instantly. RAM is designed to be extremely fast, far faster than any form of long-term storage, because speed matters when your system is making millions or billions of calculations per second. The trade-off is that RAM is temporary. Once your computer powers off or restarts, everything stored in RAM disappears. That's why unsaved work is lost during a crash and why RAM is often described as volatile memory. Its job isn't to remember things forever, but to make sure whatever you're doing right now happens smoothly. Storage is your device's long-term memory. This is where your operating system, apps, photos, videos, documents, and games permanently live. Whether it's a hard drive or a solid-state drive, storage is designed to retain information even when the power is off. It doesn't prioritize speed in the same way RAM does, although modern SSDs have dramatically improved access times compared to older spinning hard drives. Storage acts like a library, keeping everything organized and available when needed. When you click on a file, your system pulls that data from storage and often copies it into RAM so it can be used efficiently. In short, storage is about capacity and permanence, not instant access. One of the most important differences between RAM and storage is what they're optimized for. RAM is all about speed. It has extremely low latency, meaning the processor can retrieve information from it with minimal delay. This speed is what allows your computer to multitask, switch between applications, and respond quickly to your inputs. Storage, on the other hand, focuses on holding large amounts of data safely over time. Even the fastest SSDs are still slower than RAM because they're built for reliability and density rather than raw speed. This difference explains why adding more RAM can make a system feel snappier, while adding more storage simply gives you more room to keep files without necessarily improving responsiveness. Running low on RAM and running low on storage cause very different problems. When your storage is nearly full, you may struggle to install new apps, save files, or update your operating system. Performance can degrade slightly, especially on systems that rely on free storage for temporary files, but the effects are usually predictable. Running out of RAM is more immediately noticeable. Your system may slow down dramatically, freeze, or force apps to close. To compensate, operating systems use part of the storage as virtual memory or a page file, but this is much slower than real RAM. This is why a computer with plenty of storage but too little RAM can still feel painfully slow during everyday tasks. RAM and storage aren't rivals, they're partners. When you open a program, your system loads it from storage into RAM, so the processor can work with it efficiently. The more RAM you have, the more data your computer can keep readily available, reducing the need to constantly fetch information from storage. This cooperation is why upgrading either component can feel beneficial in different ways. More storage gives you space to grow, while more RAM gives your system breathing room during active use. Neither replaces the other, and a balanced system relies on both functioning well together. Understanding the difference between RAM and storage helps you make smarter decisions when upgrading a device. If your computer struggles with multitasking, slows down when multiple apps are open, or stutters during basic workflows, adding more RAM is often the most effective fix. If your main issue is constantly deleting files, uninstalling apps, or running out of space for updates, more storage is the better solution. It's also worth noting that RAM and storage are physically different components, and in many modern devices, especially laptops and phones, RAM cannot be upgraded after purchase. Knowing what you need ahead of time can save you frustration later. RAM and storage may both deal with data, but they serve fundamentally different purposes inside your device. RAM is your system's short-term memory, built for speed and real-time work, while storage acts as its long-term memory, designed to safely hold everything you want to keep, even when the power is off. Confusing the two can lead to unrealistic expectations about performance, upgrades, and what actually makes a computer feel fast or slow. A smooth, responsive device depends on having enough RAM to handle what you're doing right now, alongside enough storage to hold everything you want to do later. Once you see how they work together behind the scenes, the mystery behind computer slowdowns and upgrade advice starts to make a lot more sense. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.